Today we are going to solve quadratic inequalities algebraically. An inequality that contains a polynomial of degree 2, or in other words, the highest power will be a square, is a quadratic inequality. When you solved quadratic equations, what you did was that you set your two factors equal to 0, and you said x would equal 4, x equals negative 3 in this case here. Okay, well the idea is going to be the same. We're going to set the equation equal to 0. Then we are going to factor. This is where it's different. Instead of setting the factors equal to 0 and solve, we're going to make a sign chart. And then using the sign chart, we'll write the solution. Okay, so x squared plus 5x minus 6 is greater than 0. First thing, let's factor it. X squared plus 5x minus 6 factors to x plus 6, x minus 1. Once we factor it, what you do now is to make the sign chart, step 3 there. The sign chart will start out looking like this. On the left-hand side, you need to write your factors. So one of my factors is x plus 6, and my other factor is x minus 1. On the bottom is like a number line. Pretend for a second that you solved this x plus 6. You set it equal to 0 and solve. My question is, what would the value of x be? Hopefully you're telling yourself negative 6. That's what's going to go right there. Then you would solve this one. X minus 1 equals 0. Solve for x. Hopefully you're telling myself, oh, x equals 1. When you label the bottom, just make sure you go lowest number to biggest number. So negative 6 was less than positive 1, so that's why it's on the left-hand side. Now what you do is you pick a number. Pick a number less than negative 6. So maybe I choose negative 7. When I choose negative 7 and I plug it into the factor x plus 6, negative 7 plus 6 is negative 1. It is a negative answer. Then you plug negative 7 into your other factor. When you plug negative 7 into your other factor, you get negative 8, which is negative. Now you pick a number between negative 6 and 1. Hold on one sec. Okay, between negative 6 and 1, so maybe you choose 0. When I plug a 0 into the first factor, I get a positive answer. When I plug a 0 into the second factor, I get a negative answer. Now you finally pick a number bigger than 1, so maybe I pick 2. When I plug 2 into the first, I get a positive answer. And when I plug 2 into the second factor, I get a positive answer. So far, I have that sign chart. Now, here's the final piece of it. A negative number times a negative number will give you a positive value. Now, a positive number times a negative number will give you a negative answer. A positive number times a positive number will give you a positive value. If you look at the problem, it says you want values that are greater than 0. In order to be greater than 0, you need positive numbers. You get positive numbers for numbers less than negative 6 and when you choose numbers greater than 1. The way we say that is that x has to be less than negative 6 or x has to be greater than 1. That is step 4 where you make the answer in interval notation. Okay, and that's it. Let's try another one. On the right-hand side, in order to solve this, we take out a GCF. So it's x times x minus 2 would be greater than or equal to 0. We make our sign chart. Our factors go on the left-hand side, so x and x minus 2. On the bottom, we write our answers as if we were to solve this. When I set x equal to 0, you get x equals 0. When you set x minus 2 equal to 0, you get x equals 2. Notice again on the bottom of my sign chart, I do go from least to greatest. Now I choose a number less than 0. So maybe I choose -1. When I plug it into the first factor, I get a negative answer. When I plug it into the second factor, I also get a negative answer. Now I choose a number between 0 and 2, so maybe I choose 1. When I pick 1 and I plug it into the first factor, I get a positive answer. And when I plug 1 into the second factor, I get a negative answer. Now I choose a number bigger than 2, maybe 3. When I plug 3 into the first factor, I get a positive answer. When I plug 3 into the second factor, I also get a positive answer. Now I look and multiply. A negative times a negative will give me a positive. A positive times a negative will give me a negative. And a positive times a positive will give me a positive. I want values greater than or equal to 0. So greater than or equal to 0 are positive numbers. That means I want numbers that are less than 0 or greater than 2. So the way I say that is going to be x, I'm going to write it up here, has to be less than or equal to 0, or x has to be greater than or equal to 2. I use the equal to symbols because the original problem had the equal to symbol in it. I do not use the equal to symbols when the original problem does not have the equal to symbol in it. Let's try one more here for practice. First thing I'm going to do here is take out the 2 to make this easier to factor. I'd be left with x squared minus x minus 12 is less than or equal to 0. And I would factor this further. Factors of 12 that add or subtract to a -1 are 4 and 3. I would need a -4 and a positive 3. Once I factor it, I make my sign chart. Now I don't care about the factor of 2, I only care about the other factors, so x minus 4 and x plus 3 go on the left. And if I were to solve for this, when I solve for x minus 4, set it equal to 0 and solve, I would get x equals 4. And when I solve x plus 3 equals 0, I would get x equals -3. Go a little quicker here, pick a number less than -3 and plug it into the first factor. Maybe I choose -5, you get a negative number. Plug it into the second, you get a negative number. Choose a number between -3 and 4, so I choose 0. When I choose 0, it's into the first factor, it's negative. Into the second factor, it's positive. Now I choose a number bigger than 4, so maybe 5, and I plug it into the first factor, it will be positive. Into the second factor, it is also positive. Now a negative times a negative will be a positive. A negative times a positive will be a negative. And a positive times a positive will be a positive. This time I want numbers that are less than or equal to 0, which means I want negative values. I get negative values when I choose numbers between -3 and 4. The way I say that between an interval will be -3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 4. Again, the equal to symbols are there because the original problem had equal to's in it. At this point, you can try the one do now problem at the bottom.